Welcome everyone. So today I have a pleasure of sitting with Andrea, who is the Regional Director of Futurepreneur for British Columbia. Andrea has helped several startups and new entrepreneurs, founders with their funding and offering great services at Futurepreneur that helps them innovate in all without any worries, without giving that much equity, and also raising their capital and getting started with their new venture. So thank you so much, Andrea, for sitting with us and giving us a overview of Futurepreneurs and also your insight about how entrepreneurs can get resources and funding.
Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to have a conversation today.
So how are you doing with?
Good. Yes, it's been a great week and always up to different activities with Futurepreneur. We recently had an event for newcomers, our My Canadian Startup, which is also sponsored by TD. And we had a great group yesterday enjoying a panel of speakers. So it was exciting.
How many new founders did you guys welcome this time?
Well, the event, I think we had about 40 people at the event. A lot of them are in the pre-entrepreneurship stage. So they're thinking about starting a business. So they're thinking about financing, thinking about how to write their business plan or how to do their cash flow. And so it was good for them to hear about how they can do that, as well as hear from our panel about how to best do business in Canada.
I see. So since we're already on the topic of Futurepreneur and what the services Futurepreneur offer, how about we go a little bit in detail about the services itself?
Absolutely. Futurepreneur is a nonprofit organization, and we've been going for almost 30 years. And we help support entrepreneurs ages 18 to 39 with loans and mentorship. And so if you are an entrepreneur and you are needing some working capital, maybe that is to buy some equipment, maybe it's to improve some space, maybe it's to start a marketing campaign or hire new staff, and you know you're going to end up in a cash flow crunch, this might be an opportunity to put in an application with Futurepreneur. We are an unsecured loan, and so what that means is that we will take a look at your credit score, and we also need to look at your business plan in order to determine how much we can lend to you. We can lend between $5,000 and $75,000. And so what we encourage you to do is definitely connect with our business development managers, and they can help you a little bit with the eligibility. We have 4 main programs. One is our core startup. This is if you're starting a business full-time. If you want to start a part-time business while still being employed, you might want to go through our side hustle program. And we also have 2 specialty programs that are for those who identify as Black entrepreneurs or Indigenous entrepreneurs. And then included in the financing is also mentorship. So all entrepreneurs are matched with a mentor for 2 years.
So Andrea, since you mentioned that the Futurepreneur supplies new entrepreneurs with unsecured loans, so you look at their financial, look at their business plan. So how do you determine that, like how much this person should be getting in terms of loan, and like what kind of percentage of interest is set for that? Like what's the procedure for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of it is their credit. So we need that you have a good enough credit score. And then we look at that, and then we also look at your business plan. And what we're looking at is whether your skills, education, and experience match the business that you're proposing, and that your business plan outlines what your product and service is, what is your market, that you've done market research. We want it to be a little bit more than simply a Google search or an AI generated question, that you've actually gone out and talked to potential clients as well as suppliers and are able to do a competitive analysis. We also want to make sure you know your operations flow, and we also require a 2-year cash flow projection.
I see. So you want entrepreneurs to actually go out in the field and test their product, test their idea, talk to people, do their market research in real life, not just like online that most people are currently, like you might say, like doing, who are thinking about starting a business and they want to go on the online and say, oh yeah, not many competition, but like when you actually go out and do it, then you realize like there's a lot of competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of our entrepreneurs are in the startup phase. And so what that means is they're in the first 2 years of their business. So usually they've already made sales. They already know they have a bit of traction. So they usually have moved forward to some extent. And so usually they can then show and they can make a projection based on the sales they've already done. So normally you need to show a bit of traction in the market already. There are some exceptions to that, but that's generally who we're serving, and of a 2-year window eligibility, so 24 months in business.
I see. So it's like supporting founders and startups who are cash flow positive, and they need a little bit of money to basically buy their supplies and stock up, and they just want to like grow and scale without giving up equity.
Yes, absolutely.
So in that regards, what kind of businesses do you usually see coming to Futurepreneurs and asking for this kind of help?
Yeah, so we call our Futurepreneur businesses are mainly main street businesses, meaning they're businesses you see every day as you would walk down the street, or you might easily find if you were to do a search for some businesses. So these are bakeries, cafés, online retail, maybe professional services like your chiropractor or your acupuncturist, maybe a tradesperson or a handy person. So it's many different industries. In BC, we would say about a third are retail, another third are food, and then a little bit of all sorts of other businesses as well. We also support tech businesses, but they do have to be beyond the research and development phase. So they have to be able to show cash flow with whatever product they've already created. So it's got to be past the idea stage.
All right, that makes a lot of sense since a lot of Main Street businesses already have somewhat of cash flow at least, or they have already started doing their business and they just want some cash to basically scale up, right?
Yeah.
In that regards, I see that like Futurepreneur is not really like just like going with the trend or like funding AI companies around that. It's about funding the company that are falling into the mission statement of Futurepreneur, which to basically.
Yes. So, I mean, we're basically a go-to organization for all entrepreneurs, almost pretty much all industries and backgrounds, and all sorts of diversity and inclusion throughout Canada. So it's well beyond technology, and in fact, most of our businesses are more diverse than only technology. But nonetheless, we do support many technology businesses as well.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So since you personally have helped several startups, and also you have been around in this at least Vancouver ecosystem for startups for a really long time, so I want to know, like, what do you see generally startup founders facing? What kind of difficulty and challenges in terms of funding?
Yeah, I think there's a few barriers. And one of the reasons Futurepreneur was created, one of the big barriers is if you go to your bank and you don't have any assets, you have no business experience, they're likely to not give you any loans or financing. And that's really why we were created. Other barriers depends a little bit on your industry and a little bit on your location. Cost of leases in Vancouver can be pretty high. So sometimes it's better for your business to build. So you might not want to start out with a brick and mortar location. You might want to work on your product and sample it and test it first before you make big investments. But it really depends on the kind of business that you're in and what that looks like. So I think most entrepreneurs also are really good at the technical part of their business. They're good at making sourdough bread or fixing bicycles or being a chiropractor, but they may not know how to run a business. And so something that we also assist them with is some knowledge around making sure they've got good, bookkeeping practices, that they connect with create a good business structure, maybe with some type of a lawyer or some help or assistance, and also figuring out how they want to manage their business. So we definitely want to make sure that they are set up for success, and that when they're growing their business, that they're going to do that with some good longevity and having strength in their market.
Yeah, this is very interesting now, because as you said, banks do not really give out a loan that easily if you do not have anything to put at stake, like any kind of asset to back it, any kind of collateral basically, right? And then in the venture funding style that we see, like the general venture funding, they go for more of like their own portfolio. They're not going to go for something of, if you go for like, hey, I want to open a bakery and I want venture funding. So usually these people who have great skills and lot of experience and they want to do their own business and do their own thing basically.
Yep.
They don't think of themselves as an entrepreneur or a business person. They just think of themselves like, I want to do it, I'm having fun, I'm very skilled. Yep. And that, I think, and that's the mindset like most people go through, is because they're like, this is not a business that anyone gonna fund. So they don't really reach out to anything. They don't get many resources. But I think it's a very great opportunity that what Futurepreneur is doing, because if you see it, these kind of businesses, as you said, Main Street businesses, they start producing cash flow very quickly.
Yeah.
Because they already know, like, you're going to open a bakery.
Yep.
And if it has a customer base already, then it's going to have a cash flow already.
Yes.
If it's a laundromat someone opening, people are using it, it's going to have cash flow right away. It's not going to be like, I want to test the product, I want to develop the technology, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it creates more economical benefits.
Yes.
For people, make people more independent, self-employed, and then also pump more money into the economy. It's like find 100 great people who can take the business to $1 million. You have $100 million businesses under your belt.
Yep.
Or you can find one great company who can basically develop a product which can they sell for $100 million.
Yes. Yes. And I think, a really strong business person, often if they're wanting to grow and progress and scale, they'll maybe do different elements at certain stages. So I'll give you one of our success stories. There's one of our founders, Tara Bosch. She was 21, so one of our younger founders, and she developed this lovely these gummy bears that were really low in sugar. And you might see them in the stores. They're called SmartSweets.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a podcast called How I Built This City, where Tara speaks about her journey. And so she developed her product. So she's very much that hands-on technician. She had a real passion for, she loves sweets, which I can relate to. And I love her product, but also trying to maybe eat less sugar, right? So she spent time developing the product. And she also had a business sense that in order to grow and scale the business, that she's going to have to go through different steps. Her first step, after she developed the product, she knew she needed inventory. And I think in the podcast, maybe she needed 100,000, 150. So she got a number of funders, including Futurepreneur, to do with her first inventory of product. And that basically helped to launch her. Later on, though, as she was growing and scaling, she did bring investors, and she did sort of change and develop her marketing and her brand. And so I think if someone's really serious about being an entrepreneur and, hitting what I'll tell you in a moment as the jackpot, is that because she was quite scrappy and did different things along the way, her product's so popular that 5 years later, when she was 26, she sold that company for $360 million. And it was also through that investment strategy. So I think entrepreneurs also need to decide what their vision is. Some want maybe a business that supports their family. Others want something bigger that they can grow and scale. But in order to do that, you do have to really, I would say the word is be scrappy, and you have to be strategic about when you're going to do maybe certain kinds of financing and investment, when you will bring investors. And so there are some nuances to that journey if you decide to become that kind of size and become that lucrative. So
yeah, when you were describing the company about low sugar, and I was like, I know this one, because it feels like very recent, but I think they have been around for quite a while now. But before that, no one knew that company, no one knew what they were doing. Yeah. And then suddenly you would see them popping up everywhere in Walmart and big chain store, like small stores as well. Like I would go and I would see their sweets everywhere. Yep. And then I started doing research. I found out they were also, I think, part of League of Innovators as well at some point. Yep. And then I started looking into more and more, and that's a very inspiring story because the founder had a vision and they stuck to it. Whatever they were doing, they were not directly going for, I want to go for $100 million. They were going for first, let's figure out how are you going to do the first inventory. Exactly. After that inventory was success, after the first product, I built the product, is good. I tested it, people liked it.
Exactly.
Now, how are we going to do the inventory? That step is done. Then it's like, how are we going to get the investors? That step is done. That's like single step she kept focusing on. One step at a time, not like, 100 million. Because like, if you look at the mountain, then it's difficult to climb.
Exactly.
Just look at the first step that you want to take.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's often where people get stuck, is they know they have this vision of where they might want to be, and it's more of a dream.
Yeah.
If you don't know the steps to get there, it will maybe stay a dream. And this is something that I see. You asked me about sort of barriers. We do get entrepreneurs that come at the very early stages. They don't have any traction yet. And they're like, I want to do this, which is not a bad thing, but it's like this, but then how are you actually going to get there? And that's something we will help you do. Now, Tara had lots of people helping her, as you mentioned. So if you're wanting to create that large a vision, you're probably going to need to access lots of different people to make that vision happen. But I think what we really encourage you to do through our business planning process, working with our business development staff, our entrepreneur residents, is to build that plan. And that plan should have a step-by-step implementation strategy that kind of helps you build and sort of build like that. And so we can take you toward the vision, but we're also going to make sure you're focused enough that you've got steps 1 to 3 first.
Oh yeah.
And you're not trying to do them in a different order. So.
Yeah. This is what I've seen as well. Like, first difficulty is that people look at the mountain, as I said, like then they get scared. So how about just looking at the next step you're going to take? Look at where you're putting your foot down. Is the path clean? Do you have enough experience for that? Or who's going to help? Who's going to help you with that? So just look at the next step that you're going to take, and then find right people. And it's not going to be easy journey. Like, it's never a very easy journey. Like, okay, someone made $100 million, and we're talking about success of SmartSweets right now, Smart Sugar right now. But we are not talking about all the difficulties she faced, because we do not have the idea like what she personally went through.
Totally.
And how was her mental state, how strong she had to be to actually take the company there, and what kind of difficulties she faced. We don't know all the internal stories of her. So right now, we are only seeing like a tip of iceberg. We are like, she achieved such a great thing. That's a great thing. But like, we have to see, and basically we have to see and also appreciate all the things that she went through and learned throughout her journey, which made her go to that place where she is right now.
And I think what can happen with entrepreneurs, so we had a business before I was working at Futurepreneur at the YMCA. It was an organic food business. And so the thing with a business journey is sometimes you hit the success, but sometimes you hit some barriers and challenges, and you have to decide if you're going to keep going. And so for us, when we had our food business, we reached $1 million in sales over 5 years. We had tapped into a great market, but at some point we had competitors that were very large in the food system that were really hard to compete against. And we also needed to be more sophisticated than what we were able to do. And so we had to really either go kind of small or kind of big. And we weren't really prepared to do either. So I also think the entrepreneurship journey is also a blend of your own personal life and how do you balance the two, and about making those decisions that work best in your life. So another real success story bakery that I love, that's in Victoria, and it's a couple, and they love baking, and they also can raise their child as sort of almost in their bakery with them. And so while I don't know if they plan to franchise or really grow Working Culture, which is the name of their bakery, for them, it's probably a little bit more of a lifestyle, like what they're creating. And they have such a strong culture with their staff and with their team. So I think it's a very personal journey, and everyone needs to look at what is their passion, skills, and strengths and experience, and what you want the business to be in your life too.
So what was the name of the bakery?
Working Culture.
Working Culture.
Yeah.
That is actually a very interesting topic itself, because not everyone want to build a $1 billion company or even $1 million company. Not everyone want to do that. Some people just want to have a running business that can support the family. Some people like want to pursue that bigger goal, and they're like, oh, I want to have like this, I want to franchise my bakery, I want to create a company that is renowned and like it's multinational. Like everyone has a different goal and different dreams. So you have to first realize what you actually want, not like, oh, what people are saying success look like, because like to everyone, success is quite different.
Yes.
Like you would define success very differently. And itself, I would say not everyone even want to be an entrepreneur. Like,
yes,
like
absolutely.
that's a topic that not many people talk about, is that we assume that, oh, if given a chance, everyone want to be an entrepreneur. Like if given a chance, if given a funding, if given an idea, you want to be an entrepreneur. It's not really true. Like there might be a great innovator and who is very good at inventing things, but that person might not want to be an entrepreneur, and they just want to license it out and just sit back, you know. Like it's not necessary that like people want to do the whole thing by themselves.
Absolutely. And usually it's not, most of the time you need a team, and then you are going to fit into a certain place within that business. And so it is, it's very much a personal journey. And I think it does take a lot of work. When we had our business, there was, I wouldn't say blood, but sweat and tears. You know, it wasn't easy. And so nonetheless, it was one of the most amazing journeys of my whole life. I learned so much. So I think if someone has that passion and they have a product or service that they are getting some traction on, and they want to build and grow it, I think being in British Columbia and Canada and starting a business, there's lots of support. So I think it's really worth going for it. And whether you stay in the business for 2 years or 10, or I see some entrepreneurs, they'll start a business and they'll pivot to another business. These are more serial entrepreneurs. So it's just, and then some people go from entrepreneurship to a job, and they go back to entrepreneurship, or they do a side hustle. So it can look a lot of different ways.
It's not an overnight success journey. It's like it takes time. You have to figure out your thing first, what you want to do. There are so many questions that are popping in my head about your personal journey as well, which I want to know about how you got into Futurepreneur, and like what kind of businesses you were into before that one. So if you don't mind going a little bit on your personal side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with Futurepreneur for almost 6 years. And I think for me, being able to support entrepreneurs is very close to my heart, because I was one myself. So we lived in Langley, and I had completed a master's degree, and I had interviewed women organic farmers. I was very interested in local food and local food security, and we really wanted to sell local produce to people in Langley. And we lived there, and there wasn't a lot available. There was only some vitamin stores. And so we bootstrapped that business, right, from our own savings, and then eventually, as we grew, I didn't know about Futurepreneur at the time. I wish I had, but our credit union gave us, provided us a line of credit as we showed that growth. So it was really interesting to learn about how to hire staff. Like, for example, the first people we brought on, they were just at events, and we just said, oh, hey, come and join us. And then, we had a few problems with that. It was like, oh, I think we need an HR, policy. We need an HR strategy, right? And then we also were trying, this is early days before there was online shopping cart systems. We were trying to create that, running into some challenges, right? And then we were balancing, doing a delivery service and how we were going to optimize that. So there was so many different challenges. And then my partner was also ex-partner, ex-husband. So we also had different visions about how the business proceeded. So there are many things that I didn't know that I learned. And, I think part of it, I wish, and what I love about Futurepreneur is we have mentors. I didn't have a mentor. We had a community of clients that we served, but I really didn't have a good business mentor. And I really wish that I'd had one, because there were times when I was probably doing, not using my strengths and talents to leverage the business the best way. So then after Ladybug Organics, that was the business. I also did for a short time a coaching business, coaching women through personal training and through lifestyle coaching. And that was when I was a mom. So I was a mompreneur. And then after that, I joined the YMCA, and I worked there for almost 8 years and was helping youth and adults in self-employment programs. So it's been a bit of a winding journey, but definitely the thread of entrepreneurship has wound its way through a fair bit of my career thus far. So
no, I totally understand the problem with the HR side of thing. I had a conversation with HR specialist Aline Jeff quite a while back, and he also pointed out a similar thing. Most people do not understand the hiring is very important. Like the first staff that you hire, you need to have policies in place. You need to have understanding. You're trying to build a company culture from ground up. So you yourself do not know yet what the culture looks like. But you have to have some kind of vision about it, so you can basically lead and guide people toward that, right? And hiring itself was a very tough thing to do, like getting the right people on, like first of all, how to get people on. And if something goes wrong, how to get them off.
Totally.
So that's like the scary part. Like when you're very enthusiastic and excited, you were like, oh yeah, come and join us. Like, okay, getting on is very easy. But then things didn't work out. How are you gonna get them off?
Exactly.
That's where things actually get really tough, scary, and like a lot of things. It gets emotional in that moment.
Exactly. There's a lot more on the line. And I remember when I had to let that person go, and it was one of the hardest moments. Like, because I felt so bad, and I wish we'd done a better job. At the same time, I mean, I chalk it up to experience. Nonetheless, I think this is where, a bit more business planning, a bit more mentorship might have avoided that. Some things you're going to avoid, some things you're not. Nonetheless, it certainly, is informed me in my career as it's unfolded now.
It's like mentorship is very important. Like, and first thing that I would say about mentorship itself is that you need to have mentorship, and you need to understand how you're going to ask questions to the mentor itself as well. Like people do not even know, like they're like, okay, I need a mentor, but like where, like in which area you need a mentor, where you are lacking, what kind of question you have in mind. You have to get through those as well by yourself first, and then you can't just go to a person and like, hey, can you be my mentor? Like that person will be like, what I'm going to help you with, right?
Exactly.
So that's the thing. Like I did a mentorship for a youth entrepreneurship in Surrey, and I was put into as a mentor for a really amazing bunch of kids. And they had everything figured out by themselves. I was just there, and I was like, do you have any question? They're like, we already have done it, can you just review things? And I reviewed it, it was excellent. So it's like sometimes, like, then I was like, I was like, you need better mentor at this point, like better than me. Because like you're already at a level where I can't help you. You need someone who can help you take it to the next level. So you have already reached it by yourself. And because probably they had like done this kind of thing several times, so they improved on it. So I was very excited about that. So like entrepreneurship and mentorship is very important. And then also you have to understand when you're going through the mentorship as well, you need to also have some resources in place for yourself about how you're going to learn, how you're going to absorb. Just don't rely on it. Like mentors are not there to do it for you. They're just to guide you. So like people have some level of misunderstanding, I believe, in that area. Moving on to a couple of other things that I wanted to ask you. Since last year, I've been very involved with a lot of events with startups and Vancouver ecosystem. One thing that have come up several times by founders that I have talked to, they've all mentioned, or at least I would say most of them have mentioned that as soon as they raise a little bit of money, they want to move to US to raise a next round and improve and scale. And these startups mostly are tech startups that I've heard. So what is your opinion on that? Like, what do you think is like, are there not support here for tech startup in Vancouver that people want to move to US? What's going on there?
It's a great observation. I mean, I think there is support for technology businesses, whether that's through Innovate BC or through some of the government funding programs. So, or angels or venture capitalists. So I think it is possible here. I also have heard recently that investors are a little shyer I think there was a time when there was a lot of tech startups and not all of them sort of survived.
Oh, yeah.
So I think people are a little bit shy. Investors are a little bit shy is what I've also heard. So I think, though, it's maybe making sure you build relationships. So I think we had our event last night. People were talking about the fact if you're going to bring on an investor, to don't do it when you need the money. Build the relationship ahead of time, and be really clear that what stage you're at with investment and what industry you want investment in. And I think if you're able to target the right investors and kind of nurture that, I think there's probably more here than people realize. Nonetheless, it depends really depends on your vision and what you need and what you want, and if you can find the right support. So I wouldn't say that this is really an area of expertise of mine. I haven't done a tech startup. And if someone comes to us and they're in that stage, I would refer them to the organizations that I mentioned, and we would help them with that strategy. But it's not to say that we probably have lost some entrepreneurs to the States, for sure. Yeah, which is unfortunate. But I know that the government and us as organizations want to try to keep them strong, keep them here as much as we can. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that don't dig a well when you're thirsty kind of scenario here, right?
Yeah.
Start building the relationship, because here, if investors are a bit shy and they are a bit concerned about the investment, and you have to build the trust long before you need the money. Build that trust, keep them in the loop about what you're doing and what kind of tractions you have and how long you've been around. So they can gain a little bit of more confidence in you.
Yeah.
And then you can go ask about the investment, pitch them and everything. Then they would be more willing to help you out in that area.
Exactly.
So they already have the facts. They already are in loop. They already know what you're doing.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Most people... Yeah, as you said, they try to go for the investor when they really need it. And then when you really need the money, and at that time you're in a bit of a emotional state as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you get stressed, and then you're like, oh, how I'm going to manage the next quarter? I don't have the money. Then you start making more mistakes in that area, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's... since we're talking about the investors and funding and government support, so let's go to that question about how government. So Futurepreneur, I know, is doing a great job about supplying new founders and also existing founder with investments. And not take equity in it. Like how new founders or current founders who are already working in it should be taking advantage of government funds or government grants that are available.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to say, with our nonprofit, we are funded by the government. So we are funded by Innovation, Science, Economic Development Canada, as well as many provincial governments. So a lot of times the government is looking at organizations such as us to deliver the program. So sometimes it's good to look at the nonprofit sector for what you're looking for. And often that's the case. Now, there are grants, so you can look through, but you can find grants through the BC government website, also through some of the federal government websites. Nonetheless, say for us as an organization, if you're at all interested, we also know there's an ecosystem. You mentioned there's also different businesses to help us say grants. One's called Get Granted, one's called Pocketed. So, there's different ways to kind of go around finding granting. Some people decide to do crowdfunding, or they decide to, sort of use that as a way to kind of get their business started and move it forward. So it a little bit depends on your goals too. So
yeah, I think people who are going for crowdfunding, I had a conversation with two amazing founders, Bryn from Double and Christina from Wicked Rose.
Oh yeah.
And they did their crowdfunding for their businesses, right? And they mentioned a very interesting point. It's about validating your product in the market.
Yes.
It's like when you put it out there, you market it, and you see how many people are actually buying it. Like they're putting money to it. Like,
Yep.
So it's like, unless people are willing to buy your product for money, you don't really know if it's validated or not. People can say like, oh yeah, I like your product, I will use it. But until they actually use it, buy it for put $1 to it.
Exactly.
You don't have a product.
Exactly. And that's what our entrepreneur residents, when people come to him, he says, have you made any money? Like, make some sales, make some dollars, right? So I think that's the biggest thing you can do, is try to see how you can, generate some income from what you've got, even just a little bit. So you can just see if there's enough traction, and then get feedback from your customers. What do they want and need? And it takes a shift in mentality. Sometimes entrepreneurs, it's about their idea.
Oh yeah.
And usually the next stage of entrepreneurship is when it's not about your idea so much, it's what your customer needs. And it's a bit of a mindset shift in that process.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, for example, there's this amazing founder, Raj, who is the founder of Meaningful Work. And after the pandemic, or during the pandemic, they actually switched, they pivoted. It's like they realized what kind of customers are coming, who are actually buying the product, who is actually using the service. And they switched. So it's basically like, you talk to your customer who are already like using your product, and then they tell you about like how to improve it or what they're looking for. And then a bulb goes off in your head, and you're like, okay, yeah, adding this or removing this will actually make sense.
Absolutely.
And one of the things is that we all hear about is MVP. And MVP, I would say most people get it wrong. Even myself, when I was starting as an entrepreneur at some point, like in past, I got it wrong, is that I tried to do MVP with all bells and whistles. MVP is not about bells and whistles. It's about the basic structure, the main offering. If people are not willing to buy your main offering, no one's gonna put a bell to it.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Absolutely.
As simple as that. Like, what is needed in the market. If people are buying that needed in the market, then you can add features that you are like, which will make your product better, and sell it for a premium. Then make it a premium offering. But if people are not even willing to buy what you thought is needed in the market, then you don't really have a product.
And I think for some entrepreneurs, I don't know if it's a little bit more on the tech end, but I think the technical part, like tweaking it, making it interesting, that's the fun part for them. But it's not a business unless you're selling it to a client or a customer. And once you become an expert on what your clients and customers want, then I feel you're truly an entrepreneur. And this is also the journey. Some people may not want to really do that. They might enjoy creating bells and whistles and creating interesting things. Then you might almost want to sell that to someone else who's actually going to sell it. Do you know what I mean? So you have to be into sales. You don't have to be super outgoing to do sales, but you have to be able to sell. This is another barrier for entrepreneurs usually, is sort of sales and presentation skills and learning how to do a good pitch. And for me, this always feels like basics. But I think if people haven't thought about it, or they're not in the habit of going out and networking and like saying what their product's about, then it doesn't allow them to keep progressing and getting feedback.
That's very interesting, because I was talking to a friend about basically on the topic of startups and all that, and he also mentioned the same thing about like sales and issues with the sales. And he said something very interesting. He said like, now I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly. He said basically that Steve Jobs was not a great tech founder. He was a great salesperson. Oh, there you go. Like that's what he did. He actually transformed how you actually present and launch a product completely. And that's why still every single time Apple is launching a new iPhone, you see people, and everyone is doing the similar thing. They want to launch it in a big event and everything, make it a big thing. He was a sales genius. He made it sure, and he made that into a brand. And we're very visual. So we're very attracted by how things look and packaging. So SmartSweets, who I mentioned, she revised her packaging multiple times and the way it looked so that it would appeal to a mainstream market, right? And that took some revision, right? And I think it's also important to be able to pivot through that, seeing like what your customers, want and need. And I think it's important as an entrepreneur to have an eye to that. And, I remember in the beginning with our business, Ladybug, like we just kind of grabbed little bits of clip art and we're like, oh, there you go. And that's something like, if I started another business,
I'm going to have someone who's really good with graphic design and can create good logos and design, because that stuff matters. Because what people see, and people judge really quickly based on what they see. And so as much as it might seem a shallow way to represent yourself, it is an important piece of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So,
now this is getting very interesting about marketing
Sure.
and graphic design, because in my university, I took a advertisement course, and in that one, what we saw, huge contrast. Before, in 1980s and 1990s, all the advertisement was like big pamphlet about like what the product does for you.
right.
It was like, I'm from Pakistan, and I also like digged up all the old ads
Yep.
which were published in Pakistani magazines and newspaper. It was about huge page after page about like what the product is about, how it's going to help
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
It was not talking about any kind of like how it's going to make you feel,
Right.
what you're going to feel like it.
Totally.
Everything has changed now. No one's write blurbs about blood. No one reads that. It's all about
Yeah.
visual. And as the
Yeah.
sweets company, the SmartSweets you talked about, I have seen their packaging several times, and it gives you the message right away. It captures your attention. It tells
Yeah.
you it only has 1 gram of sugar, and that's what SmartSweets, 1 gram of sugar. Then you know
Instantly,
what's smart in the SmartSweets.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
exactly.
very great packaging.
And originally it was going to be stevia sweets, because that's one of the ingredients, except that people don't know what stevia is. Like, some people do. If you're in the health food industry, you kind of know. But also stevia has a slightly odd reputation, because on its own, it's not that palatable. So I think the fact that she kind of shifted that was really smart move. So
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, it made it appealing to the mainstream public.
Yeah.
They don't need to know what the stevia is. They need to know that like it doesn't have sugar.
Exactly.
That's all. That's what
Exactly.
people are concerned about, is the sugar part of thing, because it's not good for your health. We start seeing a lot of articles coming out about like how bad sugar is for your body,
Yeah.
how it actually hurts you in the long term, and like why you are feeling such lack of energy and burst of energies like that. It's all kind of articles start coming out how it's bad for like cause obesity and all diabetes and all, so much, right?
Yeah.
And people became more concerned about what they're consuming and just saying smart sweet, but they're like just like removing sweets from your life is also a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so it's, how does that product make that person feel? What does it give to them? What does it create for them? What is the experience that they're going to have? That's really important to consider.
Oh, for sure. Like a joy of having sweets without worrying about your health.
Exactly.
That's what it's all about, I think.
Yep.
And she did an amazing job conveying that
Absolutely.
through simple packaging.
Yep. And she's a good product.
Oh, it's a
If the
great
product wasn't good and it was just good packaging, it also wouldn't work. So I think you need both.
Yeah.
Both
if it
is a
was-
winning success.
Exactly. Like if it was just good packaging, then it would have been like one-time sale kind of thing.
Exactly.
People wouldn't come back.
Would try it and they'd be like, no.
Yeah, they were like, I have tried several products which are like looks amazing in the packaging. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try it, and then I'm like, no, I'm not gonna buy it again.
Yep.
And what she did is basically people are coming back and they're buying.
Exactly.
It proves that it's a great product as well. Packaging is basically to capture attention of new customer.
Yeah.
And then once they actually try it, they want to try it again. They want to have it, and they want to be conscious about their health.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Again, we keep on talking about
Yes.
SmartSweets again. I guess that's such a great story.
Yeah.
So since we have already talked so much about the resources, funding, and you're also about the Futurepreneur services, I want to give a little bit of more time about any Futurepreneur resources that people can tap into right now.
Yeah. So I think anyone, any age, and you don't have to be eligible for our programs. And you can always attend our Rock My Business programs. So if you go on to futurepreneur.ca, you'll find that every 2 months we offer 3-hour workshops. You can do Rock My Business Idea, Rock My Business Plan, or Rock My Cash Flow. And so if you're really just working on your early stage, idea is great. And if you're really more in that planning stage, you're maybe getting ready to apply for some financing, or you're wanting to maybe improve your business because you're not quite sure where it's going to take you, then these are excellent workshops. They're free. They're in English and French. You can take them multiple times. So these are an excellent resource. We have a new program that is being offered virtually. It's called Owners Wanted. So there is a trend of a trend we're calling the silver tsunami. So it's sort of baby boomers retiring and selling their businesses. And this program is to equip buyers to feel confident to be able to purchase an existing business. And it's a little bit complicated to evaluate a possible business purchase and how to do that. So we have started to do some virtual workshops. So if you go onto our website, you can find that. You can also find our business plan writer and our cash flow templates. So these are two pieces that you can download for free and you can use yourself. So they're really excellent resources. And then you'll also find some, like we have a blog and there's some additional videos and trainings as well on our website. So there's lots of free resources there.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. People are really concerned about the silver tsunami because we don't think of it that much because we are like, oh, they're just gonna be there, but as soon as they are not there, then we are very concerned because it's huge part of economy. We think of them as very small shop, but that small shop, as I said, if one small shop is producing $100,000, then there's several of them in one small area and all goes down, then we are actually losing $10 million. We don't think of it in that case. We always see big companies and big companies going bust, big banks going bust, then we're very concerned. But silver tsunami is gonna be a big hit on the economy if people are not willing to take over these businesses.
And we've already had this workshop in some rural areas of BC and Alberta and Ontario and Quebec, and there's definitely interest there. And people are very curious about this and they're asking questions and they want to learn more. So I think if it can be a smart decision to maybe buy an existing business because it has an existing client base. So a big part of being a brand new entrepreneur is you've got to build that client base, and it can take 1 to 5 years. But buying an existing business, you may already have that base there. Now, buying an existing business, you have to be careful, to make sure that the business is not, declining. But if it's still a strong business and then you can improve it, this can maybe be an even smarter entrepreneurship decision than starting something from scratch.
Oh yeah, for sure. Buying a business itself, what most people are afraid of is that, there's a huge opportunity that they already have customers. But what people are afraid of is that, what if I take over and it goes bust?
Yes.
Right. So what if it's declining? What if it's that? So it's very interesting because there's this book that I was also reading, Main Street Millionaires. Same scenario.
Okay.
It's about buying existing business. It's about silver tsunami. It's about how people are retiring and those businesses are shutting down and how you can buy them and make good money. And it's very interesting concept because you just have to realize that either it's stable enough to and year over year or have a little bit of growth year over year, not declining, then you can see what you can add or remove to make it even better.
Absolutely.
And if you can actually help that business grow, then it's a good opportunity.
Exactly.
If you think you're not equipped for it, you think you can work on making yourself equipped for it, it's still a good opportunity. If you really think it's not for you, then let's not do that.
Absolutely. And in that workshop, we really talk about having a team. So I think buying a business sort of on your own is risky. But if you have an accountant, a lawyer, maybe a consultant, you have enough people who put some eyes on the deal, who can look at the business you're planning to buy, and they know you and they know what you can bring to it, then I think you're more likely to do something successful. I think it's risky to do it if you have, nobody taking a second look, right? It's just like starting a new business with no validation. You need some level, I would suggest, of validation to reduce your risk.
For sure.
We highly recommend that because most of these professionals they'll intuitively have a good sense about like whether this business, like you said, is it growing or declining? Is there a real red flag? Are you the best fit? And if you get enough people on that, trying to figure it out, I think you'll come to a very good answer, like a prudent answer that is going to stand you in good stead.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Andrea. It has been great talking to you.
Yes.
And I've learned so much, and I'm interested in attending that workshop. If you have it in BC anytime soon, let me know.
Yep.
And lastly, just before I close, I want to ask you if you have any advice for founders.
Absolutely. So I think if you've got that passion in your belly, right, and you are wanting to be an entrepreneur, I'd say, be careful with the risks, but go for it, because it's sort of a one life to live. Yeah. I really believe that. And I think also find a mentor and find some programs in Canada, BC. There's so many ways we can support you. Please reach out. So definitely you can go on our website or awelling@futurepreneur.ca. Definitely email me, and if I can't help you, I will find someone who will. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes,
and I think Futurepreneur is doing a great job keeping Main Street running.
Thank you. Thank you so much for today. It's been great.
Thank you, Andrea.
Great conversation. Yeah.